The rise and fall. From mutual survival to modern narcissism. Life for mankind has always been difficult. In the mid-1800s, the average human life expectancy was around 40 years. Men were farmers, ranchers, lumberjacks, miners, cowboys, carpenters, blacksmiths, soldiers, etc. A man's primary tools were his muscles and his brain, which he used to construct his own shelter, grow crops, and hunt game with primitive tools and weapons. These endeavors were beyond the physical abilities of a woman. She needed a man to help her survive, and a man, physically and emotionally exhausted by labor and loneliness, needed a woman to make his life more bearable. A man's natural physical and physiological superiority gave him an advantage. Women knew that, and they respected it. So the two of them married and built a life together, albeit a relatively short one. While he did the dangerous, hard labor, she showed her appreciation by washing and mending his clothes, preparing his meals, cleaning his home, and sharing his bed. It took both of them to turn their savage offspring into semi-civilized adults. When the sun went down, oil lamps or candles provided just enough light for them to prepare for the next day before going to bed. They were up the next day before the sun. Anyone who stayed in bed beyond that was ill or dead. That hard life and working together for each other's well-being forged bonds of mutual appreciation and love. And when one of them inevitably died, the surviving spouse's sense of loss was genuine. As the Industrial Revolution gained momentum, men built machines and made scientific discoveries that expanded their productivity many times over and increased the average human life expectancy by decades. Electricity, lights, telephones, indoor plumbing, washing machines, dryers, dishwashers, vacuum cleaners, and a host of other inventions made the lives of women much easier and gave them more leisure time than they had ever known. Fast forward to the 21st century. Life is still more dangerous and difficult for men than it is for women. Men are the block masons, roofers, miners, longshoremen, ironworkers, carpenters, oil and gas rig roustabouts, heavy equipment operators, utility line workers, commercial fishermen, military combat specialists, etc. The few women who venture arrogantly into those professions don't last long, and they often create additional danger and labor for the men who have to work with them. In addition to doing their own jobs, men often have to rescue or clean up after the women they are forced to work with. But when men politely suggest that women would be happier and more useful if they spent their time and energy improving their physical, mental, and spiritual health, and doing jobs they are more physically and psychologically suited for, women respond with a barrage of vicious personal insults. Modern women treat the world as their toilet, and they treat men as their excrement. They have pointed their collective middle finger towards heaven and have ordained themselves high priestesses. Their religion is narcissism. Their sacred scripture is Cosmo. Their investments are haute couture. Their temples are spas and salons. Their communion elements are antidepressants and alcohol, and their God is a mirror. They spend nearly every waking moment worshiping that God, and the fire of their sacrifices to it does not go out until they are dead. The men, to our everlasting shame, have facilitated this blasphemy by ignoring it or encouraging it, instead of talking them outside the proverbial gates and stoning them to death. Like and follow for more insights on the shifting dynamics of power, survival, and the modern world.